My name is Gary Letcher. Some of you might not be familiar with my book, Canoeing the Delaware River. For the last couple of years now, I've been working on a completely revised third edition called A Paddler's Guide to the Delaware River, because now we use more than canoes. I put some of these postcards out on the desk in the lobby if you're interested in more information about that. When Sarah Berg with the Delaware Canal State Park invited me to speak at this or attend this, and said she was hoping to hear people talk about experiences that have affected them personally about the river. And that was something I hadn't really thought about before. So I got to thinking about it and realized that the way the river has affected me is, after hearing some of these other stories, is we seem to be developing a common theme here of community and people and caring for the outdoors. I've really appreciated studying the history of the river in my research. As we understand how things took place in the past, we have a better idea of where and why we are now, and perhaps have a glimpse toward the future. The Delaware River is so rich in history, but as you look back thousands of years even, you realize that the Delaware is like in the song, an old man river that flows along unchanging as the people and communities live and change and die along it. Now, in the last few years, we have the advantage I've come to use as a great tool of things like Google Books and the Gutenberg Project and digital archives that we didn't have before. And about 1900, and say 20 years before that, recreational boating and canoeing especially were becoming popular on the Delaware River. Canoe clubs sprouted up in New York City and in Philadelphia and in Trenton. And when the folks go out and paddle, they would often come back and write it up and put it in a magazine. One such article I found especially interesting was written by a fellow named John O'Reilly. His article, written in 1890, called Down the Delaware in a Canoe, published in Athletics and Manly Sport magazine. John and his friends loaded their canoes on a train in Brooklyn, New York, took the train up to Port Jervis, where they put under the river, paddled all the way down to Trenton, where they loaded up on the New Jersey Central, and took it back to Brooklyn. I'm not sure you could do it exactly that way today, but it might be fun to try. In those days, it also had some options that we don't have today. If they got tired, once the weather was turning sour, they could hitch a ride on a timber raft or on a canal barge. And often they did exactly that. Now, if you'll indulge me just a moment, I want to read just a few paragraphs from Boyle's story, Down the Delaware. About at Regalsville, they felt a storm was brewing up. They decided to hitch a ride on a canal barge. The towpath was only 100 yards from the river. A hardy canal man made us welcome on his boat, which had 100 tons of coal on board. His name, he told us, was Johnny Curran, from Bristol, down the river. Johnny Curran was about 33 years old, rather below middle stature, but strong and active, with a stern face. He had a merry eye and a smile in keeping. His face spoke of a tougher past, as he had lost 2 front teeth, and there was a deep scar on his forehead. Everyone on the towpath in the canal knew Johnny Curran. He was constantly hailing some friend, man or woman, by familiar names and returning their friendly salutations. He'd been canaling, he said, 20 years like his father before him, but he'd never known so poor a year for a canalman along the river. As poor as he was, though, he threw a loaf of bread or something to every poor tramp we passed along the towpath. He was called, and he called himself John. And at night, as we slept on his boat, which was tied to the bank, we heard passing hails. "Who are you?" "John." "Hello, John, hope you're well." A memorable incident occurred while we were on John's boat. We passed a canal-side inn called Steele's, where men and mules were housed. The landlord, an old canaler, sat at the door and hailed us warmly. "Who'd you have over Sunday?" asked Johnny Curran. "Oh, we had a good time, John. A lot of the right sort were here. We had Barrett and Patterson and Allegheny. Oh, and then Mike came down." "Mike? Well, then you did have a good time. Where was he going? Oh, Mike went down to Lambertville last night. The boat eased along. Goodbye, Johnny called. Good luck, John. Johnny told us how Mike was such a good fellow and how popular he was along the canal. We soon had evidence to that effect. As we passed a pretty little cottage between the canal and the river, a young woman leaned over the garden wall. Johnny Coran called out, "Evening, Julia." "Good evening, John." Johnny, with a wink at us to cover his duplicity. "Was Mike here on Sunday?" "No," she said sulkily. "He was up at Steele's." "Well, he'll come next Sunday." "I don't care if he does or not." "Oh, yes, you do, Julia. Goodbye." "No, I don't. Goodbye, John." She paused for a moment. "Say, John." "Now, what is it, Julia?" "You needn't tell Mike I said that." And Johnny Curran laughed low to himself, as if he was the ways of womankind. It was a dismal evening, and we had to get along till 10 o'clock. At Lambertville, we tied up at the shore, and the rain increased by 10 a steady downpour. We were grateful for the shelter of this stifling little cabin on the barge, where Johnny snored and his dog had convulsive dreams. Well, what I find striking about that story is a sense of community. Everybody knew everybody along the canal and the river. Many of you have probably hiked the Appalachian Trail, at least for a day or two. The Appalachian Trail is said to be a village 2,000 miles long and 6 feet wide. I feel our river is very much the same. A few hundred yards wide and 300 miles long. All of us who touch the river, or as Mary said, live with the river, are in a sense members of that village, members of that same big family, be it the drift boaters way upstream, or the guys that build their eel weirs, or the park rangers, or the engineers and tradesmen that build and maintain the bridges, or the reenactors at Washington's Crossing. And we could go on and name people all the way down to the people picking Cape May diamonds on the beaches at the lighthouse. All of us touched by the river. And not only a village in space, but a village in time, because we can not only go up and down the river, we can go back and forth on the river in time, back to the thousands of years, to the Lenape. People have been living on the river and with the river for thousands of years, yet our emotions and motivations really haven't changed. It's a community that has lived for all these many years and will live many, many years longer, and I'm proud to be a part of it.